Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Thoughts. Today, as you can see, we're going to talk about karma. It was a user or listener suggestion. I think it's an awesome one. Now, karma, I'm going to warn you right off the bat about the way I'm going to approach this. It is a deep part of many religions, especially the Hindu religions. They have devoted millennia times millennia to this notion. We are going to borrow probably some sentiments from those passages. But like all things, I don't step inside religion to figure out how to live my life. I listen to it and gain the concepts because they're generally concepts of man. If they were concepts of God, there would be no mystery in them, and we would not have any inquiry. It would seem that if there is a creator, and this is a side note before we get into karma, then all the creator does is really help us to live this life a little bit better. There isn't a deterministic manual that tells us how to live our life. And ironically, karma would only be a byproduct if we didn't have a deterministic life. Now, we'll most likely do, I can't remember, I don't think I've done anything on determinism. It is something worth discussing as well. Perhaps I'll do it next. Karma. Karma in its simplest form is the definition of action-reaction. There's causality for the things that you do. The butterfly in Peru changing the price of tea in China. Right? The butterfly effect. In the case of the butterfly effect, it's usually the definition of serendipity. How everything is integrated, and therefore your actions do affect the entire planet. And I think it's true. It may take a long time for a kid dropping a ball in, Russia to affect some banker in Chicago. But eventually, as long as they live long enough, the carrier wave is going to come and touch the other person, as well as the infinite carrier waves that move all over the world's surface, right? But usually when you talk about karma in a smoke lounge or with your friends, it's very, very simple. The question is, do you believe in karma? And it will usually come after we have discussed some deep state heretic who we know commits outrageous crimes, appears to be paying no price for anything that they do, and we want them to pay a price. We want the world to have some, as we would perceive it, naively defined fairness. Now, for those of you who are deep thoughts aficionados, you'll know that my definition of fairness almost contradicts the definition of fairness handed down by an SJW or a snowflake. The snowflake defines fairness as essentially an unfair game. What is fair? Fair is that you win all the time. Fair is that you get everything that you want. That's what's fair. When you don't get what you want, you'll hear little children say, but that's not fair. Now, we do know, obviously, in our own personal experiences, sometimes we work really, really hard, and you think that you put enough effort in to get something to work, and it didn't work. Something that wasn't related to your effort failed, and so you lost. But fairness is that anything can happen, and that beautiful symmetry of chaos never ends. Anything can happen. That's what's fair. You can get hit by a tree, so can your neighbor. Right? I've told this story a couple times. One of my epiphanies in life for figuring out what fairness may or may not be. My parents put me in Cub Scouts, too young to go in Boy Scouts. And in Cub Scouts, you have to carve this car out of a block of wood, right? And the box was printed and designed in the 50s. And so they have this little illustration on the outside of the box as to how the car could look. Now, as a child, 8 years old, I thought that's the way it was supposed to look. My dad was working 24/7, wasn't at home. They put me in Cub Scouts to remind me my father was working a lot. It's really just dumb as shit, but whatever. So I'm in the garage with a hacksaw, and I am cutting this thing. I'm motorized tools, and I'm figuring this. I cut it exactly like the box said. I remember my mom coming in once, getting dinner fixed, and she's just watching me. I'm 8 years old. I'm just fucking just using power tools and shit. No concern me cutting my fingers off, which is honestly what I love about my childhood, my relationship with my parents. But at one point, you got to pound in 4 nails for the wheels, and you take it to this, I guess, competition. It's I didn't even know it was a competition. I thought it was just shit. We're all making these things. We're gonna have fun with them. No, it was a competition. There was this ramp, right? And I get to this room with all these guys and their dads. And their dads have fucking tricked these things out, man. They have cut off every single piece of wood that you could possibly cut off, painted chrome with like fucking, flames down the side. I mean, just super cool, right? And I'm looking at this piece of shit I made, and I'm thinking, well, damn, you guys are 8 too. Like, how did you get these things? Oh, the fathers made them. Oh, mine's not there. Oh, okay. And so they put them in the slots. They let go of this little ramp door. And everyone else's just beautifully went down. And mine goes down. And it's literally on the incline. And mine just goes burp and stops because my front left tire, I didn't get the nail right. Again, I had no idea what these things were going to be used for. No one stepped in on the adult side. Now, I could have said, that's not fair. Their dads built their cars. And I did say that when I was a little kid. In the end, the lesson I learned was profound. That, life is going to be like that. You're going to have opportunities that other people don't have, and you're not going to have opportunities that they have, right? My dad came home pretty much within that time slot and gave me a motorcycle. I'm 8 years old. He teaches me how to use it for 2 seconds. He's like, there, go have fun. And I'm like, okay. And I was driving around the woods. So I had this freedom that the other kids didn't. It was crazy. I ran my own world. It was cool. So even though my little car didn't go down, well, I had other things that they didn't have. It was fair because anything could happen. But karma is this bizarre notion. Believe me, I talk about this all the time. And I'll tell you my personal philosophies of this. But, this isn't going to be as romantic and beautiful as the Hindu, the Veda, and all these different takes on this. When you read all the definitions of karma over thousands of years, what you end up doing is finding out that they obviously we're just trying to make people feel better, trying to account for things that maybe they observed, but trying to reassure everyone, don't worry, even though you got sucker punched in the face or whatever, that person's going to pay the price. And it makes you feel better and you go home. But that isn't the case, is it? Assholes die all the time, having been pedophiles their entire lives, right? I'd say Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have lived a pretty good life. Right? If karma was real, at least in this, from life to life, from your life, that the one that you're in right now, and if it somehow paid off in the end, there's nothing we can do to those two people that would ever hold them accountable for all the suffering that they have inflicted on this planet. And they're just two of the smallest perpetrators on this planet. Smallest, right? As horrific as they might have been on this planet, there's not enough years left in their life to give them back the karma of what they've done. Destroying other people's lives, killing people, torturing people, selling kids, potentially jeopardizing the future of this planet with a bunch of deals that were just made through the Hillary Foundation that are going to haunt us for 10, 20 years perhaps. Things we're going to have to undo. And of course, they didn't do them alone. Any one of you that follows common law, you know it's not easy sometimes. You find it difficult to whisper because you want to shout. It's hard to walk away because you want to punch someone's teeth out, right? Men and women, we have those feelings. We do. I think the majority of us walk away and just think it through, and we try to learn the lesson. Sometimes you have to catch a predator, catch a killer, put someone in jail for the crimes they've committed against others. We want there to be karma, as long as the definition of a crime is well within the wheelhouse of our daily operations when we are trying our very best to be a good person. But if I told you, I'll give you two definitions of karma, and one you'll be probably okay with, and one you're going to be a little leery about. You're going to want to think about this one a little bit. Karma of the actions that you actually do. You act out in this world, you speak poorly, you hurt someone, you steal from someone. What if I said that externalization of your internal intent out there in the real world, that is the only thing you're going to be judged by? I think most law-abiding citizens could deal with that. Especially if there was a moment in time where I said, okay, everything you've done up to this point is forgotten. We're going to turn the clock on now. And this system, this monitoring system, and when you die, we're going to do something about it. Most people would agree. The physical one's okay. But now if I said, okay, the definition of karma is everything that you think. Shit. Well, do you even control your thoughts? I mean, there's that alien consciousness out there that sits there and toys with you all day long. Here, think this suspicious thought about your lover, about your wife or your husband or your employer, or where your kid is right now. The guy that cut you off. Well, you don't understand that person's life, so you jump to conclusions, right? I think when it comes to karma of the mind, we would be very leery of turning that system on until we figure out a way to completely control our mind. And then we want to know sort of what is the threshold of a sin? A little tiny one? A big one? Is it all proportional? Meaning, do I always get back what I do? And when does that happen, by the way? Because again, George Soros is still alive. He's not dying of ass cancer. He's not on fire 24/7. So when does this stuff show up? Some people think he's dead. Some people in some religions and through phases, again, we're going to talk about this in just a second here, they believe that the karma comes back to you in this lifetime. Others think that you personally, in your next incarnations, you're going to start paying the bill. It's like a credit card with compound interest. You're going to pay the bill in your next life. Okay? Some versions of karma, it infects your family. Very interesting. We can't even conceive of that in the Western world today because our families are so blown apart by pop culture that we expect to lose control of our family. Your son and daughters all run away. You ditch your parents and they die in some fucking ditch somewhere, right? That's just the American way. There's no sense of community, except for maybe in the Midwest where we still hang on to some of the traditions of this world. So can you imagine some, biological father of yours running off, early on your mom, maybe even raises you till you're a certain age, but then disappears and he's off, he's becoming a serial killer. He's a thief, he commits theft after theft, right? And then all of a sudden it's imposed on you? I think right away, as human beings, again, we may not know what our Creator, if a Creator deed exists, would do, but that seems extremely unlikely because it's not fair in the sense of cause and effect, right? Couldn't you see a society, though, that actually had close connections with all their kids? And it is simply a motivator to say, your kid better not start causing problems for the village because, that means that you have a bad family line. You have a bad surname, which means if we start to think that you have a bad surname, then your amenities within this village are going to diminish considerably. There was a funny line in the movie Under the Cherry Moon, spoke by Jerome. He says, don't have kids with stupid people. Because then you have stupid kids. He goes, don't believe me? He goes, find a stupid kid, follow him home, knock on the door, and see if a stupid person doesn't answer. That is most likely what's going on in this planet. I have been known to say for the last 20 years of my life, and there's a philosophy for this as well. And again, probably I should stop for 1 second and just say, the variations on karma have tried to explain all of the observable reality in man. So someone laid down this definition of karma, and then that wasn't happening in a village. And so someone said, well, there's this other way it works, and they created a spinoff. And then there's a spinoff and a spinoff. There's probably 5 or 6 core spinoffs of karma. Different gurus developed those spinoffs and maintained those spinoffs and taught them. For any of you who studied ancient astronomy, when they were trying to explain the stars, they said they're painted on the inside of a glass, globe, a sphere that goes around the turtle, of which we are on the back of. But they had wandering stars, didn't they? They had moons, and they had planets out there and moons around the planets, and it became complicated. And so the engineers back in the day, the cosmologists of thousands of years ago, said, no, okay, what's happening is there's another sphere, another glass sphere. It's attached to the big sphere, and it's turning in its own little rotation. And then attached to that sphere is another little sphere that accounts for the moons. Everything was another sphere. The comets that go by, Halley's Comet, right? Okay. That's what's happened to karma. It has fractured and fractured and fractured because in observable reality, there seems to be a shortage of, karma coming back to get its paycheck. Now, the interesting thing is you'll go online, YouTube, and you can look up karma videos in traffic, and there'll be some guy, trying to cut somebody off, and then in doing so, they immediately wreck their car, and it's a karma event. Or someone being very rude, and then they walk into a telephone pole or some traffic light pole, or they walk through a glass door. I should say into the glass door and then through it. Karma sort of comes into effect when we have, extremes that occur in the universe. Some of you will remember my analogy of turning it to 11, right? When you are, say you buy a new instrument. You buy a synthesizer. This works for guitars and a bunch of different stuff. But there's knobs on instruments, right? And you will invariably plug everything in, get the sound going through your amp. And with the synthesizer, you're designing a wave. The attack, the decay, what sort of wave is going through. Is it a sawtooth wave? Is it a smooth sine, cosine wave, right? But the way that you become educated about each one of the knobs on your keyboard, or even just the pickup volume on your Les Paul, is that you take it from 0 and you smash it all the way to 10, and then to 5, and then to 0, and to 5 and 10. And you just keep playing it, or whatever you got to do, just and you start to understand how the thing works, right? Okay. Well, now let me ask you. We acknowledge all the time the laws of the universe, don't we? In this show, gravity for me is ethereal wind, negative pressure. That's all it is. Exactly like water holding a bubble together is exactly what's holding all of us down to this surface of this place we are, right? And at no point does that wobble, right? We don't have a Mary Poppins morning where we all of a sudden start floating around our living room because, guy just got kind of bored of holding it all together. Or the laws of physics that would hold down, would make ethereal winds act just like water around a bubble. They just didn't want to work that day. Nope, everything works all the time. It's an absolute thing. Okay, keep that in mind. Karma, as defined, is always rooted back to the fabric of the universe on an emotional, spiritual level. Something's keeping track. It has a book of the do's and the don'ts. And when you cross those lines, it immediately has a big brother eye on you and dings your little, driver's license with a point, infraction point. But we don't see it happening, and then eventually, it swells up to a point where a big, plasma lightning bolt hits you and you get something really negative in your life, right? We all know of people, whether they be not fictional, but I mean, we know folks that are outside of our circle that are on TV, a Ted Bundy or something like that gets away with goddamn murder forever. Now, he got put to death in 89, thank God. But man, he got to live a swell life, didn't he? Him getting the electric chair, do you really think that is an even swap for all of the stuff that he did? He killed over 30 people. He claimed over 100 to one of the cops. But at the end, he did confess to, I think, 36 people or something like that. Like 6 different states. All right. One guy fries in a chair. He was an escapee of prison, so who knows, if they put him in prison, he might have become some playboy or something, right? But he did kill a 12-year-old. So you just tell all the guys on the playground that we got old Ted Bundy here, and he gets out about this time of day, Dahmer got his in the back of a prison. And the fact that Dahmer was killed by a kid who was clinically mentally retarded is just amazing. And I say that in a very revering way, that even a kid with limited faculties just knew this guy was bad, right? And maybe that's not the true story about how he passed away, but I saw this interview. I was expecting to see some big, giant, badass guy that rips heads off with his forearms. Nope. It's like an average guy. And he just said, I heard that he did this, and those people have what's coming. So if karma exists on this planet, I would say that it is man governing man, making those choices. Now, I used to say, and that's where I cut myself off earlier, I used to say that karma always comes around, but never when you expect it, not when you want it to happen, right? Someone immediately does something bad to you. You want something immediately bad to happen back to them. And again, this thing that's happening to you might be the best thing that's ever happened to you, right? And I'll give you another example, which, again, hardcore folks, it'll be a repeat real quick. But I know that I say what I'm saying to be a little bit okay with the fact that I just got screwed somehow, right? I helped a company when I came down here to Huntington Beach. It was about a 3-man team, 1 woman and 2 guys, run by one dude. And he was a shyster if there ever was one. I mean, goddamn. I mean, he's the sleazeball of fucking sleazeballs. At the time, he may be a wonderful man today, but back in the day, he was a pathological fucking liar. Unbelievable. Narcissist to fucking the highest degree of any human being on planet Earth. And I didn't completely pick it up. And when you work in the game industry, you do bump into a bunch of kind of awkward people, and so you think, all right, well, he's just got all those weird fucking things about him. But when it came to business, is when he knew what he was doing. He knew how to steal money. He knew how to lie to clients. And I mean big lies, right? Well, I had gotten him the biggest project his company had ever had. It's what I do. No sooner does the fax come in with the signed contract, he is supposed to produce a big, giant lump of code that he kept saying, I have it. It's right here on this drive. I have it. And I said, okay, well, ship it over or make it available to me, whatever. He goes, there's no code. There's no nothing. And I'm sitting there going, I bid on the fucking project. You said that part of the platform was done. We were doing this very quickly, so I should have demanded to see it. But again, I trusted. Boom, got bit. Long story short, our relationship fell apart fairly quickly. We exposed him to our friends who were the clients. I don't think he ever recovered in that industry. I bumped into him 10 years later. He's doing something completely unrelated to games. But here's what happened. I bumped out of his company with, again, one of my colleagues from Electronic Arts, actually 2 of them. But I created a video game company with one of them. And here we are sitting in the living room of the house that I'm at right now, wondering how we're going to pay all of our bills. And we had a couple gigs that were paying the bills, but it was slim, baby. And within a year and a half, we were depositing, $500,000 a month. So, okay, should I worry about the karma that guy gets? Not really. Because the benefit of him screwing up the company and making me want to move out of his company formed my company. And of course, I run everything right. I treat people correctly. I never lie. And so everyone finds a home and it works, right? If it weren't for 2008 subprime loan scandal / inside job by our Bilderberg banker friends, I'd be sitting on a powder keg right now, probably. But karma. I think what karma runs into is people simply say, I need a model of karma that works for me right now. I want someone to suffer right now. Why? Because I'm suffering right now. How many times have you gotten yourself extremely upset about something and then you inadvertently or intentionally count to 10? Either 10 seconds passes by, which is not literal, but a day or a week or a month passes by. There's nothing you can do about it. You kind of look back on it and you're like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I mean, I was really upset and I was very terrified after something happened. Usually when we lose our jobs, that's a point of massive anxiety sometimes. But the reason why I believe there are so many spin-offs of karma is because that's what we need, right? There's a great Twilight Zone episode called What You Need. And it's about an old man who has one of these suitcases with all the kind of knickknacks you'd ever want. A pair of socks, a button, some stain remover, a pair of shoes, a pair of scissors, an ink pen. This is 1960, 61, somewhere in there. And he just sells knickknacks. But every once in a while, someone will turn him down. And he looks at them and he's got this gift. And there's something that person's going to need in the next 10 to 15 minutes of their life. And so he finds it and he gives it to them at no cost. And he says, here, I want you to have this. And they say, oh, why would I ever need that? And he just says, this is what you need. And sure enough, within 10 minutes, he gave one guy a bus ticket. And the guy was a washed-up baseball player with a bad elbow. And all of a sudden, he gets a phone call at the booth, at the phone booth, and he goes in there and finds out he's got a new coaching job in some other state. And the ticket he was given is to that state. And the guy's like, oh my God, what are the odds that I just got this ticket given to me and I need to go there and I don't have any money? But he also gave another young lady some stain remover. She's like, what do I need stain remover for? I don't have any stains on me. He goes, I don't know. It's what you need. Well, she's got the hots for the baseball guy, and the baseball guy's like, oh my God, I have a job interview, and my suit's not fresh enough, and I got this big spot on my suit. So she gets up and says, well, I might have something that will help with that. And of course, they're googie-eyed over each other, and all of a sudden she washes out the spot, and now they're off to the races. Karma is trying to provide what you need in that situation. I need revenge. I need justice. I need to know that someone who has done something bad to me is not going to be able to do something bad to someone else. I would wager that the internet itself has changed karma and accountability and the ability for predators to continue being predators like nothing we've ever seen in history. I think I mentioned it in one episode before, but imagine someone is a serial I don't want to say date rapist because that's illegal to the nines, and that will be something that a person should be put in prison for. But something lighter than that, something almost that bad. They're just a womanizer. They're a man-eater, whatever. Some guy who's selling used cars down the street, and he's lying to everyone. Someone who abuses the car as soon as it goes in for repairs. You have to be back soon to pay for changes. Today, that information gets put online, doesn't it? Reputations go all around the world in a couple seconds. Sometimes it gets filmed. Sometimes it's just you post it on Facebook. I am getting divorced because my ex-husband or ex-wife cheated on me with 5 people. This person, this person, this person, this person. They can even tag those people, right? They can put photographs online of, photographs of them doing this, as long as it's a public place, right? It changes everything. So there's the revenge karma, which is you're trying to get back at someone else, which is the most common practice of me being sort of engaged in the conversation in public. Then there's the self-karma system. And this is where we want a lot of lenience because it's us. Well, now think about this. There's a lot of ideas about why we have been created. A lot of times the question comes from, well, God was lonely and he wanted people to be around. All right. Well, if that's the case, where is he, right? Wouldn't he want to come down and say, hey, what's going on, man? No, I'm not going to tell you the lotto numbers tomorrow, and I'm not going to tell you whether or not you're being good or bad. I just wanted to say hi because I'm pretty lonely. And the Prince would have sung, what if God is one of us, which makes us all think about it, right? But then we have this idea that we are thinking 24/7, at least we are on this show, and we don't want to be, making mistakes. But we are created, compared to an infinitely perfect being, we consider ourselves to be flawed. Many of you know that my belief system is that the greatest gift that God ever gave us was being flawed. The greatest gift we have given ourselves, or God has given us, is that when we are born, we largely forget who we were before, at least for the time being, while in this meat popsicle that we are, right? Why would you want to be haunted by a previous life? And why would you want to open that artery up so that you can't live the one that you're stuck in? What'd you do with this life? Well, I spent the whole life living the other life. We're trying to figure out what it was. Really? Why? I mean, you're going to do this over and over and over and over. You're going to really waste all of your lives looking backwards at other lives? I mean, it's anecdotally very interesting. If you believe that your behaviors today are plagued by your past, then perhaps you believe in karma. You believe you've sown a thread. You're reaping it now. Well, if you're supposed to accomplish something in this world, if that is indeed any part of the charter of our condition, and you would think that that has something to do with it, because otherwise God just wants a bunch of beanstalks to grow up and call themselves human. Well, what do? We just stand here and we're beans. Oh, well, that's great. Sure glad I worked on your brain so you could never use it. It'd be like sitting in a race car on a track. What are you doing? I'm in my car. Well, are you going to race? I'm in my car. Okay, take care now. Bye-bye then. I'm in my car. Right? That's not life. Life is about getting out there, hauling some ass, trying things that you've never tried. Try not to hurt anyone. Try not to hurt yourself. But take it to the limit, baby. And just because you have taken it to the limit in the past doesn't mean you're done. All right? Now, of course, I'm not talking to necessarily a 75-year-old person or above. Perhaps they have earned a nice level of relaxation after 75 years of, balls to the wall life living, right? But I think the number's pretty high these days. Health is pretty good. As long as you don't eat shitty GMOs, take vaccinations, and brush for fluoride, you'll have a chance. What do you tell a kid when they are trying to do something? Perhaps they're trying to run a 440 lap, and they fall down, and you're their parent. And you look at them, and they're healthy, but you see them lose their constitution, their will to race, and they're having a problem. Maybe they're jumping hurdles. Maybe it's not just running. And if your kid were to stop and walk off the course before they finish without any sort of like major ankle breakage or something like that, wouldn't you be disappointed as a parent? Why are you giving up, kid? Get back out there. This is exactly how life works. It kicks you in the balls. It makes you double over. It makes you lose all the air you have in your chest. But as long as you just chill out, relax, you'll get it all back, right? It's the way it works. But we need a guidance system, right? We need something that keeps the human condition from eating itself up. We need something out there that prevents this world from turning into law of the jungle, right? Religion, I think, is one of the most masterful things we've ever created, because it was the first time that anyone wrote down morality. And without morality, you have no right or wrong. And without right or wrong, you have no karma. Karma may have been one of the very first action-reaction models that the world used before highly developed, Christianity and all the other religions of its kind, right? I make mistakes. I say things I shouldn't say. Sometimes I'm trying to be funny and I say something crude and everyone doesn't laugh, right? They just sit there and like, oh my God, did you just say that? I'm like, sorry. And the other time I'll say something just as crude, if not more crude, and everyone laughs. And so I go, well, shit, I guess a comedian, which I am not, but, I try to do my own little riffing jokes, but a comedian must do this all the time. Throw out a joke, it doesn't work. Tell another one, it works. Okay, that's the process, right? Well, we try things in life and we fail, and we try things in life and we succeed. Karma is when those attempts are either connivingly based on what we would, categorize as a moral infraction. I wanted money, so I sold your TV. I wanted money, so I stole shit out of your wallet. I stole a car. I wanted a partner for life, so I stole your girlfriend, right? Little tiny crimes. We don't even really think about them within the karma bubble. We think about them as the egregious crimes, the ones that are unforgivable. And you're sitting there staring up at night when you're young. God, how can you let this person get away with this? If there is karma of any kind, I would say it is it is only something that is accessible if the human being engaging in the crime truly feels guilty for what they're doing. There are politicians and bankers who make it an art to raise their children without empathy. There are certain races on this planet that culturally do not raise themselves with any empathy. They just execute like a machine. All right, that's the way they do it. I don't know if they believe in karma. They don't have empathy. So how would they ever have karma, right? Was Edgar Allan Poe wrote about the heartbeat. A man kills a woman and hides her body underneath the floorboards, and in his paranoid mind of morality, he hears the scratching, he hears the heartbeat, and he thinks he's buried this person alive, and people come over and he's like, can't you hear that? Can't you hear that suffering? And no one can hear anything because that person's dead. But in his mind, his subconscious ate him alive. He developed his own karma, his own checks and balances within himself. There are several rituals throughout the world where people of various religions punish themselves routinely because they know they're sinners. You see this portrayed in a lot of different clips. The funniest one is the one in Quest for the Holy Grail by Monty Python, where the preachers are chanting this Latin and then they pound themselves in the face with the board. That's a real activity. Then you have the cultures that whip themselves with whips with barbed steel on them, and they bleed all over. They walk down the street. Thousands of them do this, and they're smacking themselves. This was in HBO's Carnival. I believe it was in Boardwalk Empire. Two dudes that would routinely whip themselves. Brother Justin used to whip himself from Carnival, and the tax guy, who was the bad dude in one of the Marvel movies, did it too. So they inflicted upon themselves their own localized punishment system to probably avoid any karma down the line. I will punish myself for my violations of humanity, so you don't have to. So I don't have to worry about what's going to happen to me afterwards. So man has been trying to deal with this for a very long time. And it's very interesting to me that morality is something that probably is impossible to orchestrate within a chemical bag that we call the brain. It is something existential. It is something outside of us. It is something abstract like love. Morality is something that's very, if you have any, It motivates you to the absolute extremes of your being. And as non-empathetic as a culture might be, there's always a threshold. Well, they will do street justice. And sometimes street justice goes insane because the local region that they're living in is so horrible. There's so much pain in all the people for completely different proprietary reasons that when someone gets caught being a thief, it's like that scene in Holy Grail where they try to hang the beautiful woman for being a witch. It's because they hated themselves that they want to kill the witch, because at least someone's getting some pain. But let's talk about determinism as a result of karma, because one would cancel out the other, or one would at least negate the existence of the other. Determinism is entertained on a, I would say, subatomic quantum physics level, and is entertained on I would say inside the religious paradigms that are out there in the world. Has God written everything down for you? Those of you who study time, and one of the commenters just made this comment, and I do not believe that person had seen my episode on time, where I was in total agreement with this commenter. Some of us see time as an illusion. We are in the infinite now constantly. And as I envisioned it as a young kid, it's a cube of, it's a shape of points. Infinite points. You know, you can count up as far as you want, you can count down as far as you want, negatively, and you can go divisible, right, as much as you want. All right. So time should have that principle. It's kind of freaky for the brain to think about, right? The Infinity Project, right? All right. So what if you were just a consciousness falling through this apparatus of ethereal winds that is this particular reality, and you manifest into a human being? You live this proprietary life in this ball or flat earth disk or wherever the hell you are, simulation. You're running program E29, right? And you're this particular person at that particular place at this particular time. And you're just falling through time. It's the next moment, it's the next moment, it's the next moment. Well, if you were in such a container of these eventualities, and every eventuality that can physically occur is occurring. Now, if something can occur, it's not in the system. Any system that exists would have to have rules of some sort. You just do. And so where would determinism fall into that? Well, you could calculate your trajectory through wherever you are. But wait a minute. Maybe there's an added extra layer of steering wheel in the system. There's an accelerator and there's a brake. There's even an emergency brake in case you want to do one of those cool turnarounds, right? Go in about face. I'm losing this fucking weight. All right. Even though, theoretically speaking, and this was in the book Chaos a long time ago in the 80s. Was it Gleich? I think that was the guy's name. You know, he made a point that a lot of people knew at the time, which is if you could calculate all the particles in this container called Earth, and if you had no outside participation from space, then you could determine the weather perfectly in every single region of the world. How many drops fall out of the sky could be in a computer? But we automatically hear that and we think, oh, that's never going to happen. Well, if one of us can hack the main matrix, maybe we could figure that out. Not that anyone would want to know once you hand over the results, right? We got an app for that. But determinism is really sort of a proprietary thought of, well, all right, well, yeah, sure. On some scientific level, yeah, you could predict everything if you knew everything. But the nice thing is mankind can't figure out everything because we have a limited capacity to hold any one concept in our mind. Remember, when I try to teach people about computers, like older folks or really young kids, and they're trying to figure out, well, what is a hard drive? What is memory and all that kind of stuff? What's a processor? And I just say, it's just like the human body. I said, you know how you can remember, like I was talking to someone over 60, it's really fun because you just go, remember when you were 8? and you ate your first, maybe you remember when the first time you ever ate ice cream or something like that, your best ice cream, and you see them think for a second, right? And they're pulling back the robotic arms are going back into the data tapes and pulling out ice cream first thing, and then they can remember it. I said, well, that long-term storage is your hard drive. What you've done is you've loaded it into your short-term memory. That way we're having a conversation about it. But you're only able to process the thought because you have a processor. There you go. For each one of your senses in your body, you got a processor. You got a sound processor. You got a video card for your eyeballs. You have your brain, which is just taking everything and pushing it together into an image that is you. If everything is determined, then all of your sins, all of your immorality would be determined as well. Well, again, the paradox becomes, it's hard to hang on to karma when you can see that mathematically on paper you could prove, theoretically speaking, that you could determine everything that was going to occur. But God threw in this little wild card called consciousness, right? Sometimes you see karma come back right away. Somebody does something and they immediately pay the price. Okay. Here's what's interesting about this conversation. Let's envision a tabletop, and we're all around it, the deep thoughters, right? And we put karma on the table, and then we put determinism on the table, and then we put consciousness, and then maybe we put reality as we perceive it through ethereal matter. Energy, electrons, every single distinguishing sigma 5 orbital categorization of ether. Everything. Now the consciousness is over here. It's the one that's your soul, your spirit. And you got to figure out a model to push all these things together. Karma is sticking out like a sore thumb because it is simply the will of man to have a circle of punishment for the individual sins that an individual might conduct by themselves or against others. The sins you can conduct by yourself will be that of the mind. I'm thinking a bad thought towards someone else, but I haven't actually done anything. So the next day, you could be really nice to that person and they would never know. They're sitting out there telling everybody, this person is my best friend. But in your brain, hell, you could be thinking bad thoughts. I don't even know if I can trust that person or whatever, you know. My concern about karma and living by it is that it is a distraction. It's a distraction for you to live for the judgment of others. If you were in some weird prison, you went down to South America and you got captured, and you're in some prison, it's average degrees, 110 in this sweat box or whatever, the first thing you need to do is survive and escape, right? You need to get the hell out of this place. Whether or not the guards are simply doing their job, maybe they're participating directly in your suffering, maybe they're the reason why you got caught. Whether they get punished or not, well, that's something you're going to think about after you get to a better place. But right now, you need to survive and you need to escape, right? I think it was Will Smith, who I believe is a Scientologist, and they have a lot of mechanisms within that system of belief to help you live your life. There's a bunch of them, right? Christianity is one of them. Judaism is one of them. There's other schools of thought. Tony Robbins. He made a point that I'm going to butcher with a paraphrase, but it was essentially something like, it was based on karma, and it was based on revenge, and it was something to the effect of, shit happens, man. And you can't worry about going backwards to pass out the punishment slip. You got to pick yourself up because no one's going to live your life but you. And that's it. And that's the God honest truth, man. The other thing that I've noticed is that for folks that really, really preach karma, and if they're telling you, that means they think about it probably 10 times as much as they are willing to discuss it with you in their personal time. I have not known someone who talks about karma that seems to be a kind of person I want to spend a lot of time with. They seem acidic in their alkaline nature. They're always sort of that, I don't know. It's sort of like a dagger with some poison on it. And even though they're not trying to stick you with it necessarily. And they're living for a good cause. They're like, man, I just want bad people to get what they deserve. Well, what time does that leave for them to live their life? And then the idea is they've heightened their awareness for what they define as being a victim, right? One of the saddest things about the 21st century is that your Democratic Party in the United States of America, which means all the press, all the institutions of education most of the time, they have taught the world to be such a victim that I think the rise of karma, even though it might be going by a different name, is off the charts. And the problem with this over-victimization of society, meaning the slightest fucking thing happens to you and you're just trying to, paint a sign so you can get another protest going. The problem is that we actually have real victims in this world that need help. And for people to use victimization as a method of controlling politics, either controlling the laws that are passed by drumming up a bunch of crazy dissent against something, like a rare thing that happens, portraying it as if it happens every day. It cuts down on the people that are actually having it happen as a rare occasion. They're using the accusation of either a date rape or some sort of sexual advancement that wasn't permitted by word. They're lying about these events and creating them, right? Our president has been accused of so many things that the second he says, let's go into court, bring your evidence, put it in discovery, let's find out who you are, all of them cave because it's a false accusation. It's just to get it in the press to make a person look bad. And as soon as they go into court, they become a perjured witness against themselves because they don't have the evidence, right? Well, what about the girl that did get date raped? She is then trying to get her case to go in there because the society has seen so many lies and fakes. Now she looks like the kid who called wolf, right? But she needs support. The beautiful thing about the little hometown I grew up in, and it's still a great town, but I mean, when I was a kid, you would learn about things that happened between people. And again, I don't know of any major horrific things that happened in my hometown by any major. I don't think those things occurred, at least that anyone found out, right? But you would just hear that things happened and people got hurt. Their feelings got hurt. Very seldom did anyone physically get hurt. But they sucked it up. They used that moment as a moment to become stronger, and they did. And they became wise to how the world works, and such that they could pass it down to their relatives or their friends to say, well, watch out, if this happens, this other thing might be happening instead of what you think. So be careful, honey, right? The thing is this is what I sort of find to be the truth more often than not in my own personal life. A person who is committing some sort of moral infraction to get ahead, they step on people to get ahead. That's usually the easiest definition. They're not very smart, right? Their hubris tends to grow each and every time that they successfully step on someone's head to get ahead. And the beautiful balance of nature is not some invisible force called karma. It is that a stupid person, which is what this person is, will always sabotage their life in the end. Now, the one thing we can hand down to politicians that have sold out their country, betrayed their people, as even just the whole world, not just their state or district or their nation that they came from, is to remember them in the history books for exactly who they were and to dig out everything that they ever did. And it's important that if we don't want to commit a moral infraction, we got to really check what we think is true. But once we find it to be true, let's make sure that that crime of their behavior is used as an example within their name. Now, the boy who called wolf tail. Now, I'm willing to bet at some point in real history, something like that occurred. And so they created the parable to teach us for the rest of life, don't do this, okay? Because, when a wolf is out there eating up all of our sheep or whatever, we need to know. And if you lie about it all the time, then you're not going to be the guy we're ever going to listen to, which means you got to go find another job. And if you cause a problem with the fact that you're a liar to get attention, then we may kick you out of the tribe and you can just go fend for yourself out there in the woods with all the wolves, right? But we see it all the time, right? We see ignorant people, ignorant politicians who think they're smarter than you. And usually what it is like 20 years ago, they hit their peak. And all their methods of deception were throwing us all for a loop. We're all falling for it. And eventually, we got to see what could not be unseen. And then we started to see the crime. We started to understand it. Maybe we even became a victim of it, which was unthinkable, until life kept going, right? We have services like Yelp. We have reviews on things. We didn't have reviews before, right? Someone creates a crappy movie, but they made a really good trailer, like Solo. And everyone goes and sees the movie because the trailer convinced them that the movie was going to be worthwhile. And then you see it and you realize it's a big lump of crap, and you start tip-tapping away, writing a review on it. All right. Then no one goes and sees it. The movie bombs. And Disney goes, who made this again? Oh, yeah, all right. Well, you're not making any more movies. Not going to work anymore. By the way, who else is working on something here? Because we got to make sure this never happens again. If a restaurant serves food that gives you food poisoning, you can go right up on Yelp and say, I just puked my guts out for 8 hours. I'm in the hospital. And it's because of that restaurant. We have checks and balances now like we've never had in the past. Individuals, well, we got that stupid app that's becoming a reality in China. We got to be really careful with that old rating thing, right? Everyone's swiping up and down, whether or not left or right, that you're a good person or a bad person based on the current temperature of lunacy. But now, what if we all got into karma? We just made karma.com, and it's just a bunch of names of people that should just get screwed over. And then people start lying about you. Things you never did. They mistaken identity. John Smith in San Francisco is a pedophile. Oh, shit. Well, then there's a bunch of John Smiths who are going to get that label for no reason. Some guy even thinks he's looked up the guy where he lives, and he's got the wrong dude. Or that app comes out. The app that is wired to the rights of your country. Like in China. They are planning by 2020 to enforce the results of a opinion app about human beings to human beings, just like Black Mirror. Okay. There's also a Orville episode that ripped off Black Mirror. But they're going to start removing your rights to do things in the country. Maybe even leave the country if you get really, really bad. Don't be able to buy food. Who knows? It's all up for grabs. But that will be because we don't want to live our lives. We want to live other people's lives. We want to be the wraith that haunts someone, right? Now, I want to make a distinction. I probably should have made it earlier, but I haven't gone deep into this sort of category until just now. But I am not talking about people that commit crimes that are in the books that we have today, right? Someone who's murdered a child or something. Oh, yeah, we need to take those people out. Sorry, no rehabilitation for you. There are things that need to be punished. There are things that we do as citizens that require we be pulled out of society for a while. We've got it measured. We've got, a number of years you spend in prison for a particular crime. Now, I do think it is utterly fucking crazy that a lot of our crimes are on state levels, right? Marijuana being legal in one state and not legal in the other. Abortion having various rules in one state versus another. Come on, people. We are now at least aware due to the internet of what's going on. And I don't think that in one state you can have sex with a 13-year-old when you're 45 and it's legal. And the other state, if she's one day before 18, you go to jail forever. And you're a predator and you have to, we need to figure out what we agree on and lock it into place with some of these things that have been at the state level. Probably not even a bunch, but just a few. Do I believe karma really exists? No, not as a supernatural force that God has put in place. I don't. I think that individuals who feel guilt will typically self-sabotage and cause a karmatic moment to occur. But I think that if you're Iago from Othello, there's no penalty you will ever have. You're a Clinton. And you operate every single day with a rationale for everything that you've done, right? These celebrities and rich people that consume adrenalchromes from children to stay young. If you can do that, you don't have any empathy, you don't have any morals, and you don't belong on this fucking plane of existence with the rest of us. And that goes for all the people that facilitate such a thing. The peasants who couldn't afford a drop of the stuff, right? Now, as just a exiting footnote to this episode, I will say this, because I think we need a big picture perspective of what's about to come on this planet. We know that there are forces out there that are exposing crimes that man can barely physically or mentally conceive of. Things that you thought were impossible to occur, and especially by the people that have been accused. And again, we need to be careful about who we believe about everyone. I don't like certain people a lot, but I'm going to hold out for more evidence before I fully convict my own chest that they are guilty of something, right? Got to be real careful with that. But there's going to be, if we succeed in getting rid of the deep state, which looks like an inevitable step, believe me, without a massive human clearing on this planet, they are going to simply reform, recongregate, and come back even stronger. So the cleanup has to be extremely efficient, but we don't want some crazy-ass Inquisition cleanup. We don't want some crazy-ass, I guess Inquisition's good enough, but we don't want this thing where we're running around with mob mentality, hurting people without due process and evidence and, proof that these people have done what they're accused of, right? If you were to be an absolutist with karma, then you might just, brush off your hands and say, well, I don't need to do anything because the universe is going to take care of them. And I would agree with you on one level, that when you pass, everything that you've done, the hell that you've created on earth will follow you, because you will realize what you've done in the most three-dimensional, amazing format that you've ever seen in your life. It'll be the most HD video you've ever seen, okay? Your Crimes on Humanity. There's that funny-ass movie where that guy he dies, he gets hit by a bus, he goes to heaven, he goes to purgatory, and he's being evaluated. His whole life's being evaluated, and it just turns out he's kind of an asshole. So he's got to come back down to earth and help people. It's an old tale. It's been told several times. But he falls in love with a girl up there who has a glorious life. And he wants to go with her. He wants to follow her, but his record sucks. His report card's a bunch of Fs. She's got straight A's. So he has an extra motive to get this thing right so he can follow this girl. Such a brilliant little spin on the script. There is a definition of karma that I like, and I think it's one that we can hang on to, which is the externalized karma of what you do to other people, how you help others, right? One of the reasons why I like doing this show and teaching and helping anyone do anything, network the right person to get them from, second guessing their capabilities to believing in their capabilities. There's nothing better than that. Such an amazing reward. And there's no need for any credit for it, right? You just do it because it's what we should do as human beings, right? I like creating this show, and I like touching any one of you with any passage I might say, any one sentence that I say that you guys remember. Even if I just make you chuckle or laugh, I've done my job, right? But I'm a flawed human being. Oh my God, I'm completely flawed. I commit crimes in my brain, nothing horrendous, but or shit, maybe they are. Fuck, I don't know, right? But I try to live a life that I'm proud of in the end, I think any of us that envision meeting our Creator, well, you walk in that room and then, there's no question as to whether or not your Creator would know your whole life story. They would. And then there's that sort of, I don't think there's any hell or damnation or anything like that necessarily, but you sit there in front of your Creator and you're like, I'm sorry, man. Sorry I did that. But I did this, and that's pretty good, right? And there's no report card at the end. He's not going to go, okay, well, you get door number 2 instead of door number 1. But why do I believe that? Is it my chicken shit way of getting sort of to the ultimate destiny wherever we go after this life? I think I come back as another being, another human, maybe something else, right? I'm not going to worry about that until I'm there. I believe that if you were to take a dictator who has committed horrific crimes, authorize the wholesale slaughter of tens of millions of people, well, obviously there's something defective in their character that they're doing this. On Earth, I think they're an Iago. I don't think they think they're doing anything wrong, right? Because how could you care, right? How could you care? I don't want to mention any one dictator because there's too many. I can't pick on one because then it would be almost a racist comment, right? There's a bunch in every race. Some of them have done it so egregiously. We have videotapes of this stuff happening and pictures of it happening. And other times it has been all under the radar, but you find out later. Well, and imagine that person has to go to the other side and eventually face down each person they have hurt. Again, if there's one soul, boy, that's just going to be some serious fucking irony, wouldn't it? I believe we create our own hell on earth. We either create a world that is highly rewarding and positive, or we create a world where we're living in this negative, I hate every person who's ever hurt me and I can't think straight. So it's all about revenge, 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 right? That's not a very good life. I have found, and this will be one of my closing statements here, but I have found the sweetest people I have ever met have had some of the toughest lives that any human being could ever have, right? And some of them are immigrants from other countries that just have lost complete control. And this person was like, I would have loved to have stand up and fought for my country, but everyone else is complicit to this craziness, so I had no choice but to get the hell out because I'm the only person who's awake. And if I express that I'm awake, I disappear in the night. Now, it's when that country starts providing tens of thousands, if not millions and millions of people that start leaving the country, then you're kind of like, yeah, your story doesn't really add up, dude. You got millions of people who know their place is screwed up, and you don't need even a single million to fight off an army to raid a political White House of some sort in your country or whatever, right? One of the toughest things that we have to accept, in my opinion, once you become even marginally enlightened in this world, is to live for the now. It's an ass kicker, man. That means you can't put off anything. You have to do it right now. And you do it until you literally get so exhausted you have to go to bed. Well, my house is a complete shithole, so I cleaned it and cleaned it and cleaned it, and it's like a 5-day cleaning job because I've been postponing this for 2 years. I got dirt in every single corner, every single piece of clothing and furniture is filthy, cobwebs everywhere. It's going to take you a long time to clean up. But it's my analogy of the hatchet against the big redwood tree. Even if you take a little chunk out of it every day, eventually the thing's coming down. It's a horrible analogy because I love trees, but you understand what I'm saying. When I write scripts, sometimes life gets busy. And I found that if I just write one scene a day, there aren't that many scenes in a script. You're done in a couple weeks, maybe a month. And you'll find out that you sort of build up that ritual and you'll write 4 scenes in one day. Maybe you skip a day, come back and write 3. Got to move the ball forward no matter what. So in closing, I'll just simply say, live for the now. Live for the external good things that you can do for yourself and for others. If you're somehow waking up and you don't have any moral code, or you think or up to this point in your life, moral codes have been sort of that thing that, suckers do. But you realize, oh shit, man, I really have been hurting people. Maybe you did a lot of substance abuse up until the point you woke up, which is usually what happens, right? You stop drinking alcohol, you stop using lots of drugs, and then all of a sudden you start seeing reality for what it is. And you're like, oh my God, I've been a complete piece of shit. All right, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. What you're going to do right away is you're going to start fixing yourself right away. Treat your body well. If you've taken a lot of drugs or consumed a lot of alcohol, I guarantee your body needs to be healed. It might take a decade or two to get it back to shape. But every single day you do something to make your body more healthy, you'll feel it and you'll feel good. You'll start loving life. And once you start loving life, you start loving everything else. If you're a devout believer in karma, you're probably already trying to do this, which is why you become infuriated when others don't. Well, don't worry about them. Are you going to let someone rent space in your brain? Right? Now, we do need to take action sometimes when crazy things become legal in your country, right? But I will tell you this. I've said this a long time ago, and I need to repeat it because I haven't said it. I'll probably make a better episode to put it towards the front of the episode. But if you want to be a sucker of the people that destroy the world, let me tell you the game that they love that we play. We focus on the past. That's what they love, right? There's an event that happened in 2001 in September. And if all the people focus on that past event, they wake up every day, rewatch all the videos, they spread the news about that day. Now, it's not like you're not doing a little bit of justice to the people that passed. I'm not saying that. But if you focus on the past and you don't focus on the present, then guess what? They own the present and you own the past. And which one can be changed? You feel me? So be careful with karma. Live for you. You're going to get knocked down. That's what happens in this world. And it sucks. But you know what? It's also the greatest gift you've ever been given. Pain? I don't know. I think it's saddening to me when I hear people talk about the pain of their past constantly. And you're like, well, what's happening to the now? Anything? Anything good? When you look in the mirror, are you looking at the past? No, you're looking at the now. How many times have you heard this little thing? Well, you've seen this dramatized in sitcoms, movies, and you've seen it happen in real life. Maybe you've even had the opportunity to do it in your lifetime. There's a relationship. You think it's going great, and then you get dumped. And you could, and you get dumped for like a really negative reason, something that shouldn't be occurring. They slept with somebody else or whatever, so they're a cheater or whatever. Okay. And you want to tell the whole world that that's what they are. All right. I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but the idea is you go and become the most amazing human being on planet Earth, right? You get your game together on the appearance scale. You'll get either you go get a great job or you keep the one you have. You go and accomplish something. And you make yourself one of the most sought after people on planet Earth. And then you bump into this other person that dumped you. And boy, they're interested in you now. Why? Because they made the wrong decision. They meet you and you look great and your life is great. And they made the wrong decision. Maybe that is your way of passing out a little bit of karma. But the beautiful thing is, you know better than to go back. And your life is fantastic. And if you go back, you'll go back into that whole cycle of hating yourself again because you were silly to give someone who screwed you over a second chance. Now, there are circumstances where second chances are extremely important. And that's where you get to be the authority in your own life, right? Anyhow, I think that's all I've got about karma for now. Hope that was entertaining or useful to your life. If you haven't been to Deep Thoughts Radio, please go. It's where you can change your feeds from audio to video. So if you're listening to this on YouTube and you want it in your car, that's a great way to switch over, vice versa. The nice thing about YouTube is you get to write comments about what you're feeling about a particular episode. And I will tell you, I was just reminiscing with a friend of mine, the number of times, again, I can't stress this enough, and you might hear folks say this, and I'm going to tell you they probably mean it 100%. It's not just to blow smoke up the listeners' butts and make them feel good about themselves. I'm telling you, you guys touch me mentally every other day, at least. That's a bad day. That's a bad week. Usually it's every single day someone says something and makes my mind go, oh my God. A lot of times it won't be some profound epiphany of realization necessarily, but you point me to someone who inspired you. And if I have time in that particular pocket of the day, I'll go out and link to a video you might give me, or look up a book, or look up something on Wikipedia or something. I'll research something and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. This particular episode, I had to go refresh my mind, my knowledge, about the various definitions and schools of karma. And they're so ornate and beautiful. I try not to even get into the origins of it all because it's so complex and again, manicured. I couldn't do it any justice if I tried. We also have a locked Facebook group. It's on the website as well. Just click Facebook. It'll take you right to it. Again, if you're a Facebook person, go for it. There's also a Patreon page for $1. You can get most of these episodes a day to 3 days ahead of everyone else, plus some announcements about things that are coming that I think is going to blow your mind to pieces. Be really good stuff. Anyway, take care of yourself and someone else, and I'll see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over and out.